In today's video, we're taking a look at the latest rumors around the Edmonton Oilers. Could they actually facilitate a goalie trade and move Jack Campbell's contract to a new team as part of that? We'll discuss how that might work out and what the cost might be, plus who will be the next general manager of the Oilers. We know Ken Holland's on an expiring contract and is likely going to be replaced maybe even before the end of the season. Plus, we have the latest on Patrick Kane. Milan Lucic appeared in court today on charges. And we have several updates as well regarding injuries and recalls and roster moves. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have tons of news to talk about today. Let's kick things off with the news regarding Bruins forward Milan Lucic, of course, who was arrested on Friday night into Saturday morning. He had to appear in court today. He was just for an arraignment. He put in a plea of not guilty. Basically, we do have a lot more details on what allegedly transpired compared to when the news first broke. Of course, when the first broke, all we knew was some sort of domestic incident, and it was believed to be his wife who ended up calling 911, and that's kind of really all we basically knew. But based on his court appearance and other news outlets talking about the case, it sounds like this was largely over the fact that it was mostly over a lost cell phone. Lucic was out in the evening with friends drinking, or we don't know exactly who he was with, but he was consuming alcohol. We do know that much. He was fairly intoxicated, and then he came home and apparently it sounded like he couldn't find his phone and ended up accusing his wife of hiding it or taking it or whatever, and that's what the argument was over. And then when she claimed to not have it, which is believed, makes her side of the story, makes it sound like he lost it, before he got home, or she had nothing to do with her at the very least. And then from there, he's accused of choking her, attacking her, and and pulling her hair and things like that. Unfortunately, we also heard through part of this that his kids were home, and it's believed that his kids were also having a sleepover with friends. So certainly not a good look for Lucic, obviously. At this point, like I said, he's on an indefinite leave of absence from the Bruins. I don't know if it's officially 100% or not, but I've seen some people saying that he was going to be going into the NHLPA player assistance program while he's awaiting his court date. With today's situation, he pled not guilty. Pre-trial date was set for January the 19th. There is an order against him for no abuse, of course, or any kind of abuse towards his family, and no alcohol, and that's all. And then, of course, he'll have to appear in court in January, and I believe the maximum sentence, if he's found guilty, if he did do any jail time, would be up to 2.5 years. Hard to say if it'll get to that or what have you, but that's where everything that we know and where things stand here as of today. Given that he's got a court date in January, I would say that there's a good chance that Lucic won't play anymore this year, but I can't say that with absolute certainty. Will the Bruins terminate his contract? I don't know that. I know there's a lot of people commenting and saying that he should be terminated, and maybe he should be, but that's a debate, I guess, between the team and the players' union. So we'll see where things go, but Lucic won't be back with the Bruins for an extended period of time at the very least. Nils Hoglander of the Vancouver Canucks was fined today by NHL Player Safety. The maximum amount under the CBA for what he did, which was slew footing, was $2,864, which I know is not a lot of money, but that's the way the CBA is written. So essentially, he slew footed Kevin LeBanc, took him down, slammed him down to the ice, really for no good reason, and he was ejected from the game. And then, of course, this is an additional supplemental discipline on top of that. So not a good look for Hoglander. Hopefully he learned his lesson. We don't see that kind of behavior again. It's not something we see a lot. Several other updates regarding injuries and other announcements from teams today. Columbus Blue Jackets today announced that defenseman David Severson is going to be out for approximately 6 weeks, recovering from an oblique injury. Of course, the Jackets are having a pretty tough season. I think they have 1 win in their last 11 games or something like that. It's, all their top players, for the most part, are struggling. Laine, Gaudreau, Zach Werenski's not looking great either. And now Severson's down, not going to make things any better That much for sure. The Nashville Predators are going to be without Cody Glass. He's going to be out for a while due to an upper body injury. Right now, he's classified as week to week. The Montreal Canadiens are once again hit with the injury bug. Raphael Harvey-Pinard, who we talked about the other day, was going to be out. We know more about his status. He's looking at about 6 to 8 weeks with a lower body injury, so that's bad news on him, who had a breakout season last year. And the young defenseman Jordan Harris is out as well. Like right now, they're saying he's out indefinitely with a lower body injury, and he's going to be away from the team for a little while, undergoing further testing and evaluation. So right now they've called up Matthias Norlinder to the roster for replacement. Jaden Struble also will make his NHL debut when league play resumes tomorrow. Of course, today is Tuesday, the 21st. There was no NHL games today, and there won't be any NHL games as well on Thursday for U.S. Thanksgiving. The Philadelphia Flyers also activated today Mark Stahl, who's been out injured, and demoted Felix Sandstrom, who cleared waivers the other day. He's now back down to the Philadelphia Phantoms in the American Hockey League. The Toronto Maple Leafs as well have sent back Bobby McMahon and Simon Benoit back down to the Toronto Marlies of the American Hockey League. Besides that, we also got news today from the New Jersey Devils that they announced that Sergei Brylin, who was a longtime Devil, is going to be inducted into their Ring of Honor in January. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, still works with the team. They showed a clip of doing some video work in their practice facility. Head coach Lindy Ruff actually made it sound like he was going to be playing some clips from their actual recent game, and it said they were highlights of Sergei Brylin, who's working with the club as well, and he was in the room to be able to see that they're going to actually honor him and put him in the Ring of Honor. He was a great player for them, and certainly a long-time veteran, and done a lot for the organization, both on the ice and as well off the ice since he's joined them as well. So that's certainly nice to see. Wrap up of the NHL Global Series in Stockholm, Sweden. There's lots of talk about what might be coming next. I mean, the NHL's been to Stockholm on many occasions now. I think that's the 4th time, I do believe. They've had great success there, and I'm sure in the future they will continue to go there every so many years or so. But it's believed that the next stop next year is likely going to be Munich, Germany. I would fully suspect you're going to see at least 2 teams. They could do 3 or 4 like they did in Stockholm. Obviously, the top stars that are German-born would be Leon Draisaitl and Timmy Stützle. Throw Moritz Seider in there, Detroit as well. I know there's JJ Peterka from the Sabres right now. So we'll probably take a look at, obviously, what teams have some of the top talent, and they probably will be the teams to go, obviously, to celebrate and kind of, put their top German stars on full display. So we'll see. I don't know when we'll get the full details of that. Probably a little while yet, but it's believed that Munich, Germany will be the next stop next year, and either the upcoming year for preseason or maybe the year after as part of the Global Series. I really think Mexico City is being highly considered as well. Lots of talk around Patrick Kane here today as well. Lots of updates from several NHL reporters, including Frank Saravalli of dailyfaceoff.com. It's believed that Kane's decision on where he's going to sign is likely going to come either on or shortly after U.S. Thanksgiving. So that's only a matter of days away. It might not be till the beginning of next week or over the course of the weekend. It's difficult to say exactly when, but it's believed at this point that Kane's met with anywhere from 8, 9, 10 teams, and he's starting to kind of narrow down the choices. As of right now, we're not aware of any teams that have been told they're out of the running. Obviously, it's going to be a combination of what he sees from the team. Does he think he can have a chance to win? What kind of contract are they offering? Kind of weigh out his options. Saravalli said, according to what he knows and talked to league sources or a variety of teams, that it sounds like a lot of people think that the Florida Panthers are the front runners to land his services. We'll see. I know Elliot Friedman talked about it as well today on the Jeff Merrick show, and he said that from what he's been told, that he's heard Florida as well has been pushing really hard. He said from what he's hearing that it's definitely a lot more likely to be an Eastern team than a Western team. That's something that, the extra travel and style of play in the Western Conference might not be best suited for Kane, and he might prefer the Eastern Conference from that standpoint. But it's believed that he's looked really good. He's concluded his training and working out, and that he's 100% ready to go. So it won't be long for him to play after he signs. Detroit and Buffalo were the main other teams outside of Florida. So it sounds like there's a really good chance he's going to end up in that Atlantic division. I wouldn't completely rule out Tampa as well. Of course, some of these teams have different cap situations than others and might have to make subsequent moves to make it work. And like I said, it's going to be a combination of what do they offer him? If one team offers more term, more money, and he's, looking at them as being equally as good, then it's hard to say where he's going to go. But more than likely one of those four teams, but you can't really say with absolute certainty here just yet. Now, of course, as I mentioned as well, I want to take a look about the Edmonton Oilers. I want to talk about a couple of things. We talked a lot about Edmonton Oilers goalie options, and we've talked about the fact that they have heavy interest in a variety of goalies with the Montreal Canadiens. We've talked last week a couple times about Jake Allen maybe being their prime target. Then we talked about information from Elliot Friedman suggesting he thought they'd be more likely to target Samuel Montembeault or Caden Primo. And now I see more information as well, and this comes from a different source. It's actually a Twitter source, and not somebody I'm super familiar with, but they are followed by a lot of NHL reputable sources and insiders and reporters, and they do seem to have, from what I could gather from their past attempts at putting out information, they do seem to know what they're talking about. So they had some information posted saying that they believe that the Edmonton Oilers have talked to the Montreal Canadiens not only about a goalie trade, but about Montreal actually taking the contract of Jack Campbell back as well. Obviously, taking the Campbell contract off their books gives them so much more flexibility. But obviously, to take the Campbell contract, they need to have some sweeteners. And the Oilers do have the option of retaining a little bit of money or trying to see if Montreal or another team would take the full contract. Clearly, he's in the second year of a 5-year deal. He's going to have 3 years left on his contract after this season at $5 million per year. So it's not going to come cheap. But it's believed that if Montreal or another team did this trade, what they would do is then they would turn around and buy Campbell out at the end of the season. So yes, they'd have to sell the idea to their owner of having some dead cap space for a while. But of course, they have the Carey Price contract in LTIR for a number of years remaining as well. So maybe they aren't super concerned about that. It's basically a way of them weaponizing their cap space. But if they can get, say maybe it's like a solid 3 assets out of the Oilers, they might view that as being worth it. So it's, believed at this point that for Campbell's full contract to go to Montreal, that they're probably looking at least 3 assets that are first round picks or first round quality assets. So you're talking about maybe it's 2 first round picks and Xavier Bourgault. Maybe it's Xavier Bourgault, Philip Broberg, and a first round pick. Something along those combinations. We know Montreal has been rumored to have interest in Bourgault. They probably would have interest in a young defenseman like a Broberg, or maybe it's Raphael Lavoie, another option for a young player as well. Maybe it's Dylan Holloway. To get a couple of these, first round quality formerly drafted players, and then some picks on top of that. And of course, but it's believed from this information that it would be Jake Allen that would be the target for the Edmonton Oilers here, that they're not going to send Campbell to Montreal. Like, it wouldn't make sense for Caden Primo. And for Montreal to take that contract on, it would make more sense. They'd have to unload a bigger contract as well. And of course, Jake makes the most money. There's been rumors about a Montembeault contract extension, which I don't think he can command an exorbitant amount here or anything like that. So, they could put Campbell in the minors for the rest of the year and then buy him out. And then from there, they still have Primo and Montembeault moving forward, and they can reevaluate their goaltending situation from there. So does that make sense to you that Montreal would take the Campbell contract, excrete a bunch of assets out of Edmonton for doing so, and then of course trade Jake back the other way, and then you'd have a combo of Stuart Skinner and Jake Allen? To me, I don't know. Like, for Edmonton, I understand that you don't want to have a wasted season. You want to try to do everything you can to get back into the playoff race right now. But, if you give up too much of the future as well, maybe they just wait and buy Campbell out themselves next year, right? There might be other ways to look at this. And we don't know, exactly how the upper management of the Oilers are looking at this. Now, speaking of the Oilers, though, in their management team, we know Ken Holland is in the final year of his contract, and he's going to be done. They're going to have a new general manager moving forward. Of course, we have Jeff Jackson as the CEO. Right now, he's basically calling the shots anyways, in my opinion. But there is some information out there suggesting that the next GM could be another name that you recognize. It could be a former player. It could be a current NHL agent and somebody who's well connected to a lot of those people within the Oilers organization, and that's Dave Gagne. Yes, Dave Gagne, his son plays for the Oilers, has been drafted there and played with the Oilers on multiple occasions. So obviously there's that connection, but it's not super important. But of course, Dave Gagne is a player agent who knows a lot of those players. He's represented, I think, about 4 or 5 of them, including Evan Bouchard as well. So there's that. He's a longtime associate and good friend of Jeff Jackson, associate of Connor McDavid. So we know that they seem to bring in people that McDavid knows and is comfortable with. Obviously, when these kind of roles as well, it does help on who you know, and he's great friends with Jackson. We've seen more and more agents getting into upper management in NHL franchises. So the trend kind of makes sense, and to me here could be a good fit. So don't be shocked and surprised. Sometime, it might be a while yet before we hear it, that Dave Gagne will be the next general manager of the Edmonton Oilers. It makes a ton of sense, and with all the connections, I can see how that very well could happen. But as far as who's calling the shots now, that's pretty well, in my opinion, Jackson more than Holland. And do you think he can pull that off, getting the Campbell contract off the books and bringing in another veteran like Allen just for a short-term stabilizing role to try to help get this team on track? At the end of the day, this team needs a goalie, and they need some help on the blue line. The amount of defensive mistakes they're making is insanely ridiculous, and it's costing them games. Like last night, I seen them blow multiple leads. They just can't seem to keep the puck out of their net. It's a combination of the defensive personnel and the structure that they play with, and they need to make some changes there. So I don't think we're going to be waiting too long to see them react to get something done, because it's almost too late now. Like you can make an argument to say that the Oilers, even if they get things turned around, they're going to have a heck of a time getting into the playoffs. Even you win, I think they had a situation where they won a few games there in a row under the new coach, and then they only made up like 1 point on the teams in front of them. There's so many teams in front of them, and a lot of them are always playing. Sometimes they're playing each other. They're always getting points. And it just, with the loser point, especially 3-point games, it makes it almost impossible. It's really, really hard to get caught up. They need to have a massive winning streak to have a chance to do so. So we'll see what happens, but let me know your thoughts on the latest news and rumors from all the different Oilers stuff and all the other stuff we talked about here today down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.